really astounding. And the whole thing was so saccharine that you could just actually feel the sugar coming through the screen. You were actually on a sugar high afterwards because they were so ridiculously over the top with her. You could almost feel her PR team whispering in their ear, telling them how much they have to praise her for her obvious, very mediocre, absolute amateur, so unworthy of this competition skills that it actually boggles the mind. But here's the funny thing.
Meghan Markle's guest appearance on MasterChef Australia was supposed to do something very specific. It was supposed to make her look natural in the kitchen, warm with contestants, comfortable around food, and credible as the face of a lifestyle brand built on cooking, entertaining, seasonal produce, and the soft glow of domestic expertise. Instead, the episode gave her critics exactly the kind of material they have been waiting for. Not because every second was disastrous in an obvious, cartoonish way, and not because the contestants were unkind to her. In fact, the official presentation was glowing. Network 10 and Endemol Shine promoted her as a humanitarian entrepreneur and passionate home cook. The episode placed her beside Pauline Yeo, Sophia Levin, and Jean-Christophe Novelli, with the contestants asked to create a heartfelt dish using seasonal ingredients that mattered to Meghan. The challenge was framed as something personal, elegant, and fit for a duchess. On paper, it should have been a perfect bridge between Meghan's Netflix lifestyle series With Love, Meghan.
I think she was very, very subtly twisting what Meghan's PR team told them to do, keeping referring to her as the Duchess, and called her out for obviously being so incredibly fake when attempting to try things and tell somebody it was good, because Meghan cannot act. And how terrible everything was written all over her face, including the banana bread made specially for Meghan by one of the judges on the show, which I'm sure was magnificent. But Meghan acted like it was one
and her brand as ever. But the problem with a carefully curated image is that television has a way of testing it in real time. If the person behind the brand genuinely has the skill, the ease usually shows. If the person does not, the performance starts to feel thin very quickly. That is the big issue here. Meghan has spent years trying to define herself as a woman of taste, care, hospitality, and meaningful little rituals. The TIG was about that world. With Love, Meghan tried to package it for Netflix. As ever has tried to turn it into products, jams, teas, mixes, honey, and polished little items that promise a lifestyle rather than just food. But the more she leans into this identity, the more she has to prove she actually belongs there. A lifestyle brand cannot survive forever on beige linen, handwritten labels, and the word thoughtful. At some point, people want to see the substance. Can she cook? Can she explain food in a way that is specific rather than decorative? Can she guide people who are actually in a kitchen under pressure?
The comments and the articles about tensions behind the scene, I think, guys, were incredibly, incredibly real. I don't think this went well in terms of filming. And I definitely think the two female hosts really, really caught on to Meghan and were really able to figure out quite quickly that Meghan didn't know what she was talking about, couldn't really evaluate any of the food, and just is an absolute dope on this program. Meghan Markle, I don't know what she was thinking.
Can she answer a basic question about what she makes for her own family without drifting into lifestyle vocabulary? On MasterChef Australia, those questions were suddenly not abstract. They were sitting right in front of her, dressed in aprons, trying to win immunity. And that is where the performance began to wobble. The introduction alone showed how overproduced the whole thing felt. Meghan was presented with the kind of language usually reserved for heads of state, saints, and global cultural icons, all at once. The show leaned heavily into her title, her supposed humanitarian profile, her voice, her heart, and her love of home cooking. For supporters, that may have felt like the respectful treatment of a well-known guest. For critics, it sounded like a PR document being read out loud. Meghan's public image has always suffered when the praise around her becomes too inflated. If you call someone a global icon, viewers will immediately ask whether the public actually sees her that way. If you call someone a humanitarian, people will look for a body of charitable work that clearly justifies the word.
An entire brand, guys, about cooking items. They even call it artisanal kitchen items. And you watched her on this show, and I am absolutely 100% positive Meghan Markle does not cook at home. She does not. Nor does she know anything about hosting. Because one of the comments she made about hosting, all I can think of is, honey, you never host. Because you've never had to cook for 10 people because you think hosting is relaxing. That tells me you have an army of people in the kitchen doing the work for you. You're not doing the work.
If you call someone a passionate home cook, people will expect passion, detail, memory, confidence, and practical knowledge. The danger with exaggerated praise is that it raises the standard before the guest has even walked through the door. By the time Meghan entered the kitchen, the episode had already promised more than she could comfortably deliver. There was also the title problem. The show repeatedly called her the Duchess of Sussex, and the challenge itself leaned into the idea of food fit for a duchess. To some viewers, that was simply correct. Meghan retains the title and is widely known by it. But for others, the constant use of Duchess felt awkward because Meghan and Harry have spent years presenting themselves as people who wanted a life outside the formal working royal structure, while still relying on the glamour and authority of royal status whenever it is useful. That tension is never far away. If Meghan appears as Meghan Markle, former actress.
Intro. And the big thing I want to point out about this, guys, is that it's complete and utter lies, the vast majority of it. It's just lies. And so, let's begin.
She is a global icon, a philanthropist, a humanitarian.
There's a lot of things there. Global icon, which Meghan Markle is not. She is not a global icon. In her mind, maybe, but not really. Catherine's a global icon.
Entrepreneur and lifestyle founder. The appearance has to stand on her personal expertise. If she appears as the Duchess of Sussex, the show gets instant ceremony and status. But the whole thing starts to look less like a food episode and more like a royal adjacent marketing event. That is exactly the awkward space Meghan often occupies. Not fully royal in the working sense, not fully ordinary in the celebrity sense, and not fully expert in the lifestyle sense. MasterChef Australia placed all of those contradictions under bright studio lights. Her first answers did not help. When asked whether she was a MasterChef fan, she gave the expected enthusiastic response. She sounded honored, delighted, and grateful to be judging meals. But the problem is that Meghan often speaks in a way that sounds polished before it sounds specific. A true fan usually gives something away without trying. A favorite judge, a favorite season, a memorable dish, a format detail, even a small confession about watching late at night.
Meghan Markle is not, because Meghan Markle, to me, to be an icon, you actually need to be well-liked and successful and accomplished, and Meghan Markle is none of those things. So she can't be an icon. She's not a philanthropist. She hardly does charity work, and she basically does charity work for the good feels of it, in terms of her good feels. She also is not a humanitarian, because everything serves Meghan Markle. So let's listen to the next bit.
A woman?
Meghan's answer had the shape of enthusiasm, but not much of the texture. That does not prove she has never watched the show, and it would be unfair to state that as fact. But it explains why critics heard the answer and immediately doubted it. She sounded like someone who knew the correct mood for the moment, rather than someone who had a personal relationship with the program. This is one of Meghan's recurring image problems. She often understands the emotional script of a scene, but she does not always provide the concrete detail that makes the emotion feel lived in. The same pattern appeared when she spoke about cooking. She described a relaxed California-style great produce, farm-to-table instincts, fresh herbs, citrus, grilled fish, grilled meats, heat, balance, seasonal food, and the idea of nurturing through food. None of that is wrong. In fact, it is exactly the language one expects from a California lifestyle brand. But that is also the problem. It sounded like the vocabulary of a brand deck. A home cook who truly lives in the kitchen usually talks differently. They mention the sauce that always splits unless the heat is low. They talk about the one roast their children actually eat.
With her own lifestyle brand that includes gifting and beautiful artisanal food products.
So gifting and beautiful artisanal food products. Yes. They're not beautiful. Her artisanal products suck. I've had them. They suck. I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying that not just because I'm not a fan of Meghan Markle. I actually tried her products. They were not good, which is why they're not selling. Why do you think Meghan Markle keeps having to bundle everything that she puts out new? Because they suck and they're not selling.
They remember the pan they use, the shortcut they learned, the spice blend that changed a dish, the disaster from last Christmas, the recipe they still cannot master, or the meal their husband requests when he is tired. Meghan gave broad lifestyle phrases when the setting demanded culinary specificity. When a guest judge on MasterChef is asked about cooking, the audience expects more than fresh herbs and a little bit of spiciness. Those are ingredients of an answer, not the answer itself. The most revealing moment came when Meghan was asked what she likes to cook for her family. That should have been easy. Any person who genuinely cooks for a household usually has one dish that comes to mind immediately, even if it is humble. It does not have to be sophisticated. It could be roast chicken, tacos, pasta, curry, pancakes, soup, or a casserole that everyone eats without complaint. The emotional weight comes from specificity. Instead, Meghan drifted into the idea that she has many palates to please. She explained that Harry, being from the UK, likes meat, potatoes, and cream sauces.
Meghan Duchess does that. She wants to be introduced that way every time she walks into a room. And this is, again, another example of how Meghan Markle gets royalty completely wrong. Because to be royal, you have to be a mixture of, yes, you are somebody who has been elevated within the society. You have a royal title. You get to wear tiaras. There are ancient orders you get to be a part of in these.
While she gravitates toward California-style grilled fish, grilled meats, citrus, heat, herbs, and balance. Again, none of that is impossible. Families do have different tastes, but she still did not name the dish. She did not give the meal that belongs to her kitchen. She did not say, this is what I make on Sundays, or this is what the children ask for, or this is the recipe I learned from my mother. The answer stayed atmospheric, and on a cooking show, atmosphere is not enough. This matters because Meghan's current commercial life depends on the idea that she can sell domestic authority. With love, Meghan is not a political documentary. As ever is not a memoir. These projects are built around mood, taste, and hospitality. They ask the audience to believe that Meghan has a real relationship with food and hosting, not just a photogenic one. So when she struggles to say what she cooks for her family, critics see it as more than a weak television answer. They see it as evidence that the brand is hollow. Supporters will say that is too harsh.
Around to get and gain influence. That arrogance is what people dislike about royalty. And so Meghan is living up to kind of the worst, let's say, expectations or people's feelings about royalty. She's living up to the worst of them by behaving in just such a crass manner. And I don't blame, again, MasterChef Australia, because I'm sure Meghan Markle's team told them to do this. But it's just something I want you guys to keep in mind, is that this is...
that not everyone speaks well under studio pressure, and that a guest judge does not need to be a professional chef. Fair enough. But Meghan is not being judged against the standard of an ordinary celebrity cameo. She's being judged against the standard she chose for herself. If she sells the kitchen will judge her. The carrot top pesto moment was another example. When asked what she might cook from the ingredients, Meghan talked about carrots from the garden, the children growing them, and using the tops for a pesto, perhaps with fish or pasta. It was not a terrible idea. Carrot top pesto is a real thing, and using the whole vegetable fits the seasonal, low-waste, garden-to-table aesthetic. But even there, the answer seemed to arrive slowly, as if she was searching for something that sounded right, rather than describing something she had made many times. The judges and contestants on MasterChef are used to thinking in layers: texture, acidity, heat, fat, sweetness, bitterness, crunch, presentation, timing, and story.
I believe that's a bald-faced lie. I don't think she is. I don't think she watches MasterChef at all, to be honest. She's not a fan. And the idea that she was quote-unquote asked means that her PR team started fishing around to see what she could do, and this was one of their options. And I believe this because obviously MasterChef wouldn't know her schedule, and would they just throw things up at her?
Meghan's language hovered around story and feeling, while the food professionals around her were clearly operating in a more technical world. That gap is exactly what critics noticed. A lifestyle host can be warm and evocative, but on MasterChef, warmth eventually has to meet technique. The banana bread moment became one of the most discussed parts of the episode because it touched Meghan's own history. During the Sussexes' 2018 tour of Australia, Meghan famously brought banana bread to a farming family, a gesture that was treated at the time as charming, homely, and personal. On MasterChef Australia, Pauline Yeo made banana bread for Meghan, and the symbolism was almost too perfect. Here was a real food professional taking one of Meghan's most famous domestic gestures and bringing it back to her inside a competitive kitchen. Supporters might see that as affectionate. Critics saw it as quietly brutal, because it placed Meghan's curated domesticity beside Poe's obvious culinary credibility. Meghan praised the idea and asked for the recipe, but viewers watching her face.
I thought.
My cooking style is really relaxed. I grew up in California, and so, as you know, we have incredible produce.
So, what's her cooking style? Relaxed. Because, every cook, Meghan Markle, just does it in a relaxed way, right? And then she has to go, well, I was raised in California. We know. We're not idiots. I mean, maybe some of the people on the show don't know because maybe they didn't really care about you until 5 seconds ago, which is totally fine. I'm not blaming them at all.
Read the moment in very different ways. Some saw polite appreciation, others saw discomfort, awkwardness, or the look of someone being outclassed in her own chosen territory. The truth is impossible to know from a facial expression alone. But television is a visual medium, and Meghan has long been criticized for moments where her face seems to tell a different story from her words. Whether fair or not, this episode added another example to that file. That is also why Sophia Levin's poker face comment landed so sharply. On the surface, it was a playful observation in the middle of judging, but in the context of Meghan's public image, it sounded loaded. Meghan's critics have long argued that she is not a natural performer despite her acting background because her expressions often appear too deliberate or too revealing. A good guest judge can usually give feedback that is honest without being cruel, supportive without being fake, and specific without being grandiose. Meghan sometimes seemed caught between wanting to be kind and not quite knowing what she was tasting. That can produce a strange kind of overpraise where every reaction becomes sweet, elegant, beautiful, creative, or meaningful.
All because you can feel it. This is why it was so incredibly stupid for her to be in the episode doing this, because you are aware of how inept she is. And that's what was so insanely stupid about her own TV show, is that she's inept in this area. And Bella Bajaria was trying to come up with anything Meghan Markle can do, which I think shows and proves that there is nothing to Meghan Markle. It's just a facade. She just has some things she likes to do, but she doesn't want to be the real Meghan ever. And so she has to put up this mask and...
But the viewer is left wondering whether she understood the dish in front of her. When a professional food critic jokes about a poker face, even lightly, it gives the audience permission to notice the same thing. The repeated Duchess references became more uncomfortable as the episode went on. It is one thing to introduce her formally. It is another to keep returning to the title as though the entire kitchen must orbit it. The phrase Duchess is first might have been said with warmth, but for viewers already skeptical of Meghan's relationship with titles, it felt like a tiny needle. That is the delicate problem Meghan faces every time she steps into a non-royal space. The title gives her status, but it can also make ordinary interactions feel staged. A cooking competition works best when the judges are there for the food and the contestants are the stars. If the guest's title begins to dominate the room, the balance shifts. Suddenly, the contestants are not simply cooking for immunity.
For the family.
One.
It's a tough one because I have a lot of palates to appease.
So this is an important question. What is your favorite dish to cook for your family? So Meghan obfuscates. She goes down a different path, but I will tell you how to answer this. Yes, any chef has to cook for a variety of palates, but what's one thing you created that everybody wants to eat? Any mom should be able to answer that, because I'm sure my mom could have. If I asked her, what was our, like for us, it was probably...
They are cooking for Meghan's myth. And that is not always flattering to Meghan, because it highlights how much of her brand still depends on an institution she and Harry publicly left behind. The 30-minute time call was another scene that critics seized on. Instead of simply calling out the time in the usual brisk MasterChef style, Meghan chose to tell contestants individually and personally. In theory, that could have been charming, a softer, more intimate version of a standard competition beat. In practice, it struck many viewers as awkward because the contestants were under pressure and Meghan's personal approach seemed to pull focus. A cooking competition has its own rhythm. People are chopping, plating, tasting, adjusting, panicking, and watching the clock. The cleanest thing a judge can do is help the rhythm not interrupt it. Meghan's version became a mini performance about Meghan being thoughtful. That is the risk with her public appearances. Even gestures meant to seem kind.
More Pacific Northwest and Southern Cali. I mean, obviously there's fish in Southern Cali, but I feel like it would be more Mexican. That's what Southern California is known for. A lot of Mexican. And In-N-Out Burger. Let's be honest.
I just like using really pure natural herbs and spices.
So she goes on this weird, I like to use really natural herbs and spices. That's not a dish, Meghan Markle. Like, what are you talking about? Herbs and spices, okay. I mean, she has no clue what...
Can begin to look self-conscious if they draw attention back to her. A quiet act of consideration stops being quiet when it announces itself. Then came Harry's video call. Official and friendly coverage presented the moment as sweet, supportive, and spontaneous. Harry appeared from Canberra, where he was involved with veterans, and Meghan brought him into the room as everyone reacted warmly. To fans, it was a light marital moment. To critics, it looked staged, because reality television almost never treats a surprise like that without production planning. Again, the truth is not the most interesting point. The interesting point is that viewers no longer trust the Sussexes' spontaneous media moments to be spontaneous. Their brand is built on intimacy, but much of that intimacy arrives through cameras, curated clips, carefully selected family details, and controlled public reveals. So when Harry appears by video call in the middle of Meghan's MasterChef appearance, skeptical viewers do not think, how sweet. They think,
Kids jump in a lot, especially with the garden. I think it's such a nice luxury to be able to have so much space and things to cook.
Yes, Meghan, it is a luxury. You are different, and you should kind of acknowledge that a bit more, rather than trying to connect with people. Just admit you live in a massive mansion on a couple acres in Montecito, and you have gardeners and chefs and nannies and maybe cooks and cleaners and personal assistants and all these sorts of things. Like, she is not like a normal stay-at-home mom or anything. Like, she tries though to act that way, and
of course this was arranged. That is a trust problem, not just a television problem. Harry's cameo also reminded people that the Sussex brand is almost never just one of them. Even when Meghan is selling food, Harry is nearby. Even when Harry is talking about veterans, Meghan's lifestyle world enters the frame. Their projects often rely on the chemistry, conflict, curiosity, or fatigue surrounding them as a couple. In this episode, Meghan referred to him as H and talked about his food preferences, his British tastes, his love of meat and potatoes, and his ability to handle curry. These are small details, but they feed the same machine. A steady drip of domestic intimacy offered to an audience that has heard many times that the couple wants privacy. Critics are not wrong to notice the contradiction. Of course, public figures can share selected personal moments while still wanting boundaries. But Harry and Meghan have monetized intimacy so often that every new glimpse invites scrutiny. The audience has been trained to ask what is authentic and what is content. The episode's broader reception was split, which is exactly what tends to happen with Meghan.
So you actually have to get on a waiting list to get one. So that is their hero product, Hermes. It's the Birkin and the Kelly. I don't know why I went to luxury. But anyways, Meghan Markle, again, this is very much speak from her time attempting to be a businesswoman. So that's where that's coming from.
These are all things that, for me, feel really nostalgic. And I love if there's a connection that you can find when, as you're cooking something.
Supportive outlets described her as warm, engaged, and delighted to be there. A source close to her pushed back against reports of behind-the-scenes frustration and said she had a great time filming. Judges and contestants, at least publicly, were positive. But skeptical commentary read the same footage in the opposite direction. Awkward, sugary, overproduced, too title-heavy, and unintentionally revealing. This divide is now a permanent feature of Meghan's public life. There is almost no shared middle ground. To fans, she is graceful, unfairly targeted, and constantly forced to prove herself to people who decided long ago to dislike her. To critics, she is a manufactured personality who keeps trying to borrow credibility from fields where she has not demonstrated real depth. MasterChef Australia did not create that divide. It simply gave both sides fresh material. The problem for Meghan is that the appearance was meant to support As Ever, and instead it raised questions about As Ever's foundations.
But they refer to her as a Duchess a lot in this show, and it's cringe. And again, you almost get the sense that they're mocking her because they use it so much. I want to say they used it 10 to 15 times. And after a while, you just can't help but think, it was like, are they really doing it as a sign of respect, or are they doing it to mock her? And she's just not aware of that, because Meghan Markle would not be a person who's aware of this very subtle mocking.
A brand can survive criticism of packaging, price, shipping, or taste. Those are ordinary business problems. What is harder to survive is criticism of the founder's credibility. If the public believes the founder truly loves the subject, even imperfect products can be forgiven as early attempts. But if the public suspects the subject was chosen because it photographs well or fits a Netflix-friendly content strategy, every awkward moment becomes damaging. Meghan's products have been described as artisanal and meaningful. But a cooking brand needs more than sentiment. It needs recipes, uses, repetition, trust, and a sense that the founder actually reaches for these items in real life. If jams and spreads only appear on toast in carefully lit videos, people will ask whether the brand has culinary imagination. A MasterChef appearance should have been a chance to show that imagination. Instead, critics came away saying she could not explain what to do with the ingredients beyond the safest lifestyle language. There is an obvious alternative path Meghan could have taken, and it might have suited her better. Her original strengths were not necessarily cooking under pressure or culinary judgment.
Not fooling anybody. You think you're fooling people, but you're not. We can all see through you, and you're continuing to act is not helping your case at all, to be honest.
I can't wait to see what they do. It'll all be so different.
Yeah. Meghan, what would you cook? Oh my gosh.
That's a great question.
So I love the question. Meghan, what would you cook? Because again, Meghan is attempting to kind of try to be in this game, but she's just so out of her element. It is really, really bad. And
They were presentation, handwriting, gifting, table setting, stationery, storytelling, aesthetics, and social polish. A brand built around entertaining paper goods, wrapping, notes, flowers, hosting checklists, candles, linens, and curated gifts might have felt more believable. It would still have been vulnerable to criticism, but it would not require her to stand beside serious food people and prove she can think like a cook. The kitchen is unforgiving because food is concrete. A dish either works or it does not. A sauce has balance or it does not. A judge has something useful to say or does not. Lifestyle branding can float in atmosphere, cooking cannot. By choosing food as a central pillar, Meghan chose one of the easiest areas for skeptics to test. That is why the comparison with the professional judges was so unhelpful to her. Poe, Sophia, and Jean-Christophe inhabit food naturally.
sentence for Meghan because it's not worth listening to Meghan stumble around attempt for an answer because she obviously does not have one.
A nice fish dish or
So many things.
so many things.
Yeah.
I just feel like Poe's like, so many things. Because she's just like, stop it, woman, you're embarrassing yourself. And it is. Meghan is embarrassing herself. She's wandering all over the place, attempting to get to an answer. She obviously is not creative. She doesn't know what to use, how she's beginning. She talked about figuring out how to get creative in the kitchen with what she has.
They do not need to prove they know why texture matters or how a dish is built. Their authority is immediate because it comes from experience. Meghan's authority, by contrast, had to be asserted by the episode's framing. The announcer could call her passionate. The challenge could be designed around her favorite produce. The contestants could be told to cook something meaningful. But asserted authority is fragile. When placed next to earned authority, viewers can feel the difference. They may not know every technical detail, but they know when one person is thinking like a chef and another person is speaking like a lifestyle caption. That difference became the silent drama of the episode. There is a kinder reading. Meghan may have been nervous. She may have been trying not to dominate too much. She may have wanted to encourage the contestants rather than critique them harshly. She may have understood that this was not her kitchen, not her show, and not a place to pretend to be a professional chef. Her supporters would argue that the attacks are disproportionate, that she was invited as a celebrity guest, not as Gordon Ramsay.
Bridges. But at the same time, you can feel the turn about halfway through the show.
He has great knife skills.
Oh, look at that. You're amazing at this, by the way.
I'm sorry.
You could just dip in and do the job.
It's very fun.
So Poe's like, well, you can just dip in and do it. And Meghan's like, it's very fun. Like, you can just tell, like, things are starting to the friction is developing here. They're kind of catching on. Oh, this woman doesn't know what she's talking about, does she? And again, I feel like the subtle mocking is starting to begin. I mean,
And that viewers expecting expert level critique are setting her up to fail. There is some truth in that. Celebrity guest judges often bring energy, story, or theme more than technical authority. But Meghan's difficulty is that she is not just any celebrity guest. She has built a commercial identity around food and hospitality. The standard follows the brand. If she wants the benefits of being seen as a lifestyle tastemaker, she cannot also ask to be judged like someone casually dropping by for a bit of fun. Another uncomfortable layer is the way Meghan uses family detail. Throughout the episode, she referenced Harry, the children, the garden, family meals, vegetables, desserts, and the luxury of space. These details are meant to humanize her. They create a picture of the Montecito household as warm, seasonal, and connected to food, but they can also distance her from ordinary viewers if handled poorly. When Meghan talks about children picking dessert from the garden, some people hear a sweet parenting ritual. Others hear a woman with extensive resources presenting an estate lifestyle as though it were a relatable kitchen tip. The word luxury matters here. It is a luxury to have space, produce, help, time, and a garden that can become part of a brand story. Meghan sometimes acknowledges that, but the brand still depends on making the luxury feel accessible. That is a very narrow line to walk, and MasterChef did not make it easier. The ratings question also matters, though it should be treated carefully. The original commentary argued that Meghan did not deliver the kind of huge audience surge one might expect from such a heavily promoted appearance. Publicly available episode listings confirm the episode aired as Season 18, Episode 56, Immunity Challenge Meghan Markle on the 26th of July, 2026. Reports and commentary around the episode described a mixed response, with some viewers calling the moment warm and others calling it cringe.
guys, I imagine Poe's banana bread is incredible and amazing. But if you looked at Meghan's face, you would think she's eating like not a shrimp cocktail, like something gross and fishy. I don't know. I don't like fish. So watch her expression. We'll have to do this in 2 chunks because I think it's a bit longer than I would like, but Watch this. And again, I imagine this is superb.
Even without leaning too heavily on one ratings figure, the broader point stands. Meghan's celebrity now generates attention. But attention is not the same as broad affection. She can still trend, she can still produce headlines, she can still make outlets cover a cooking show cameo as if it were a major royal event. But that does not automatically mean audiences are persuaded. In fact, sometimes the coverage reminds people how much effort is required to keep the Meghan brand in motion. This is where the Emmy nomination for With Love, Meghan complicates the story. The Netflix series received a Daytime Emmy nomination in the Outstanding Lifestyle Program category, and that is a real industry marker. Her supporters can point to it and say that the show is being recognized professionally, whatever critics online may say. But nominations do not always settle public perception. Awards bodies judge within industry categories. Audiences judge whether they believe the person on screen. Meghan's lifestyle work can receive formal recognition and still struggle with authenticity. Both things can be true at once. The nomination gives her team a talking point. The MasterChef appearance gave critics a visual counter-argument. One says the industry is taking her seriously. The other says viewers are still not convinced she is the natural domestic authority she wants to become. The separation of As Ever from Netflix adds another layer. In March 2026, As Ever and Netflix announced the end of their direct brand partnership, with the company saying the brand was ready to stand on its own. That makes appearances like MasterChef Australia more important, not less. If As Ever is independent, Meghan herself becomes even more central to its credibility. She cannot rely solely on Netflix production values to create the atmosphere. She has to carry the brand into other spaces and make it believable there. MasterChef should have functioned as a proof point. Meghan in a real competition kitchen, surrounded by serious food people talking naturally about produce, family, and flavor.
I have never done coconut and a banana bread. You're gonna have to share this recipe with me, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Meghan, you don't want this recipe. You would never make this recipe. You would probably even riff on it and do it yourself. But Meghan so clearly, guys, does not like this. But I don't think it's just that it's bad, because I think it's actually fantastic. Meghan Markle is being shown up, and that's what she doesn't like. What she did is being used.
Instead, it created a question. Can the brand stand on its own if the founder seems least convincing when she is placed closest to actual food expertise? The Australian context also matters. Meghan and Harry's 2018 tour was one of the last periods when the couple enjoyed broad public goodwill as working royals. Australia has sentimental significance in their story because they announced Meghan's first pregnancy during that tour. Returning to Australia in 2026 and appearing on MasterChef should have allowed Meghan to tap into nostalgia. The young Duchess, the banana bread, the charm offensive, the early promise before the royal split became so bitter. But nostalgia can cut both ways. It reminds people of how much has changed. In 2018, the banana bread story was treated as a sweet glimpse of a new royal bride trying to connect. In 2026, the same domestic imagery is filtered through years of Oprah, Netflix, Spotify, memoirs, interviews, brand launches, family estrangement, title debates, and public fatigue. The old charm cannot simply be reheated and served again. The audience is different now because the story around Meghan is different. That is ultimately why this appearance felt larger than one episode of television. It was a stress test for the post-royal Meghan project. Can she move from royal controversy into lifestyle credibility? Can she sell warmth without sounding rehearsed? Can she use her title without making every room feel like a court? Can she talk about family without appearing to monetize privacy? Can she stand beside experts without the contrast exposing her? Can she turn attention into trust? MasterChef Australia did not answer those questions in the way her team probably hoped. It may have been pleasant on set, it may have been edited to be friendly, it may even have gained curious viewers. But the lasting clips are not simply about food. They are about the uneasy feeling that Meghan is still trying to perform a role rather than inhabit one. The strongest lifestyle figures
stack up to your cooking show with Love Meghan.
So they had to ask about With Love Meghan. How does this compare? And again, Meghan shows you through her answer how little she understands about the premise she's attempting to sell. And I'm going to tell you why.
Oh my gosh, well, we had so much fun on my show, but it's very different. I mean, it was about hosting and hospitality and taking it easy for a home cook.
Meghan, any hostess worth her salt knows if you are a host,
understand that audiences do not only buy products, they buy confidence. Martha Stewart did not become Martha Stewart simply because she liked table settings. Ina Garten did not become beloved because she repeated soft words about hospitality. Nigella Lawson did not build a food identity because every dish looked perfect. They each created a recognizable world, but that world was rooted in repeated, visible competence. Viewers felt they knew what those women actually cared about. They could imagine them in a kitchen without a camera. That is the standard Meghan keeps brushing against. She clearly wants the glow of that category. The baskets, the preserves, the garden, the table, the handwritten note, the intimate dinner, the meaningful family recipe. But she has not yet convinced skeptics that there is a deep practice underneath the styling. A cooking identity is earned through repetition, not announcement. It is earned by showing up again and again with ideas that feel useful, personal, tested, and generous. That is where the MasterChef format was so dangerous for her. It compressed the whole question into one room. On her own show, Meghan can control the edit, the pace, the guests, the colors, the mood, and the level of difficulty. If something does not work, it can be reshot or softened. On MasterChef, even with friendly editing, she had to react to other people's food, other people's timing, and other people's expertise. She had to stand beside professionals who do not need lifestyle fog to sound convincing. That contrast is unforgiving. The more she spoke in broad emotional terms, the more viewers could feel the gap between brand language and kitchen knowledge. This does not mean she has no interest in food at all. It means that interest alone is not the same as authority, and the episode exposed the difference. There is still a path forward for her, but it would require humility, which has always been the hardest ingredient in the Sussex brand. Meghan could reposition herself not as the expert, but as the learner. She could say openly that she loves the idea of food and home, but wants to learn from people who know more. She could let chefs create recipes using as-ever products and place them at the center.
Here we go.
So Meghan is going to do the 30-minute time call, and she has to do it, guys, personally. This is weird. This is weird. And it looks like she's flirting with every guy. She's looked like she's going over there and flirting it up with them. And she has to tell them all the time, oh, I'm doing this personal. And then I love this bit.
Let's make it personal. I don't like to yell. Here we go. Vinny?
Yes.
So she says, I don't like.
She could stop trying to make every item feel like an heirloom and instead show why it tastes good, how it can be used, and what ordinary people can actually do with it on a weeknight. She could turn the criticism into an advantage by becoming less polished and more practical. But that would mean giving up the illusion that she arrives already complete, already wise, already graceful, already the person everyone else is supposed to admire. And that is the real challenge. The lesson is not that Meghan should never cook on television again. The lesson is that she needs to stop mistaking aesthetic control for authenticity. If she genuinely wants to be accepted in the lifestyle space, the answer is not more titles, more praise, more celebrity cameos, or more carefully arranged moments with Harry on a phone. The answer is specificity. Show the dish that fails, show the recipe she actually makes every week, explain what a product does beyond looking pretty. Admit the limits, bring in experts, and let them lead. Stop presenting every ordinary preference as part of a grand emotional philosophy. Viewers can forgive imperfection when it feels real. What they resist is being sold an image that behaves as though it has already earned their trust.
As almost as if to say, like, oh, and I mean, it was just so incredibly staged to have Prince Harry show up via even a phone. It was just so incredibly dumb. I kind of hate that kind of stuff oftentimes because we know how fake it is. Nobody's fooled. Nobody's buying it. Nobody buys that this was just a random call. It was just so incredibly obviously staged.
So the MasterChef Australia appearance was not a total collapse, but it was revealing. It showed why Meghan remains fascinating and frustrating in equal measure. She understands presentation, but presentation keeps outrunning substance. She wants to be relatable, but the machinery around her keeps making her look elevated and stage managed. She wants Food and Home to be the next chapter, but Food and Home require a kind of grounded confidence that cannot be faked for very long. The contestants cooked under pressure. The judges carried the culinary authority. Harry supplied the couple moment. The producers supplied the title and the shine, and Meghan supplied the brand mood. What she did not fully supply, at least for skeptical viewers, was the convincing sense that this is truly her world. That is the problem, as ever, now has to solve. Because if the brand is going to stand on its own, Meghan cannot just be styled as a passionate home cook. She has to make people believe it.